Raj had always dreamed of living in a quiet place where the sound of the wind and water could calm his heart. For many years, he worked hard in the city, saving every little coin, planning for a day when he could leave the noise behind and live somewhere peaceful. His dream finally came true when he bought a small but beautiful house near the lake. The house was not big, but it was perfect for him. It had a little porch where he could sit in the mornings, a small garden where he planted flowers, and from the window of his bedroom, he could see the sun rising over the still water of the lake. Every morning, Raj would step outside with a cup of tea in his hand. The air was fresh, filled with the smell of grass and the soft sound of birds singing in the trees. Sometimes he would sit quietly for hours, watching the lake shimmer like glass. He felt like he was finally living the life he always wanted. Neighbors who passed by would greet him kindly. Some were old, some were young, but most of them smiled when they saw him. Raj always smiled back. He believed that kindness kept a neighborhood alive. Raj also enjoyed gardening. In front of his house, he planted marigolds, roses, and small bushes that gave off a sweet smell in the evenings. He painted his fence a soft cream color, which looked lovely against the bright flowers. On weekends, he would take his fishing rod and walk down to the lake. He didn't always catch a fish, but that didn't matter to him. What mattered was the quiet time, the calm water, and the feeling of belonging. His heart told him, this is home. But peace, as Raj would soon learn, can sometimes attract unwanted storms. One bright afternoon, when the sun was high and the lake sparkled like silver, Raj was watering his flowers. He wore a simple cotton shirt, and his mind was light with thoughts of making a special dinner later. Suddenly, he heard the sound of footsteps on the gravel path. When he looked up, he saw a woman walking toward his porch. She was tall, wearing a sharp look on her face, as if she was already unhappy before even speaking. Her steps were fast, and her eyes moved around his house like she was inspecting every detail. Raj, being polite, smiled and said, "Good afternoon. Can I help you?" The woman did not smile back. Instead, she introduced herself quickly. "I'm Karen. I'm with the HOA," she said, folding her arms. Her tone was firm, almost like a teacher scolding a student. Before Raj could even reply, she started pointing at things around his house. "Your flowers are too close to the walkway. Your mailbox doesn't match the others. And that door color absolutely not part of the HOA standards." Raj blinked in surprise. He had read the HOA rule book very carefully before moving in. He knew the colors were allowed. He knew the garden rules. He had done everything right. "I believe my house follows the guidelines," Raj said softly. He did not want to argue, but he also did not want to be treated unfairly. Karen's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," she replied sharply. "This neighborhood has standards, and not everyone belongs here." Her words were cold, but Raj kept his calm. He thought maybe she was just having a bad day. Still, something about her voice made his heart uneasy. Later that evening, Raj sat on his porch, watching the sun go down behind the trees. The lake was calm, and the sky was painted with soft pink and orange colors. But in his heart, a small worry had begun. He wondered why Karen seemed so determined to find fault in his home. He wondered why she said, "Not everyone belongs here." He reminded himself that he had bought the house fairly, followed the rules, and treated his neighbors kindly. Still, the thought of her sharp voice echoed in his mind. The days passed, and Raj tried to continue his routine as always. He greeted the neighbors, watered his flowers, and spent evenings by the lake. Yet, there was a small shadow in his peace. Sometimes, he felt like someone was watching his house. He would notice Karen walking slowly down the road, looking at his yard, writing something in a notebook. She never smiled, never waved. Raj told himself not to worry, but deep inside, he knew something strange was coming. For now, Raj chose to focus on the good. His home was still his dream, the lake was still his comfort, and the garden still bloomed beautifully. But life was about to change, and Raj had no idea that the woman who came to his porch that sunny afternoon would soon bring him the biggest challenge of his new life by the lake. The next morning, the sky was clear, and the lake reflected the soft blue above like a giant mirror. Raj woke up early, as he always did, and stepped onto his porch with a warm cup of tea. The cool breeze touched his face, and he breathed deeply, letting the calm air wash away yesterday's worry. He reminded himself that life was too short to think too much about small troubles. But deep inside, Raj could not forget the woman he met yesterday, Karen. Her sharp tone, her way of pointing at everything around his home, her words about not belonging here, all of it stayed in his mind. Raj told himself that maybe it was nothing. Maybe she was just strict about rules. Maybe she would forget about it soon. For the rest of the morning, Raj worked in his garden. He trimmed the bushes, added fresh water to his flowers, and even placed a small chair near the fence where he could sit and read in the evenings. He wanted his home to look welcoming, not only for himself but also for anyone passing by. To him, a beautiful home was a sign of respect for neighbors. Just as he was putting away his tools, he heard the sound of footsteps again. When he turned, his heart sank a little. Karen was walking toward him once more. Her expression was the same as yesterday, serious, strict, and filled with judgment. Raj quickly straightened his back, brushed the dust off his hands, and greeted her politely. "Good morning," he said with a soft smile. Karen did not return the smile. "Morning," she said shortly. Then, without waiting, she began looking around again. Her eyes scanned the fence, the porch, and even the little chair Raj had just placed. "You're new here, right?" she asked. "Yes," Raj replied calmly. "I moved in recently. I love this place. The lake, the trees, it feels peaceful." Karen crossed her arms. "Well, peace only stays if people follow the rules. And from what I see, you don't exactly fit in." Her words hit Raj like a stone. He had never wanted to disturb anyone. He had done everything carefully. But still, she spoke as if he was already guilty. "I've read the HOA guidelines," Raj explained patiently. "I believe I am following all of them. If there's anything I missed, I would be happy to know." Karen shook her head slowly. "It's not just about reading. It's about understanding. The HOA has standards, and I'm not sure you belong in this community. Some people think they can just buy a home and do whatever they want, but that's not how things work here." Raj's heart grew heavy. He had worked for years to buy this home. Every coin he saved carried the memory of long nights and hard days. And now, someone he had just met was telling him he didn't belong? Still, he kept his voice calm. "With respect, this is my home. I have every right to live here. I am not breaking any rules." Karen's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," she said coldly. "I'll be watching. And if I find anything wrong, you'll have to face consequences." With that, she turned and walked away, her steps sharp and quick on the gravel. Raj stood still for a moment, watching her leave. A quiet ache filled his chest. He was a peaceful man, never fond of fights or harsh words. He believed in living with kindness and fairness. Yet, here he was, being told he didn't belong in a place where he had poured his dreams. That evening, Raj tried to calm his mind. He sat on the porch as the sun set over the lake. The water glowed golden, and the sky turned pink, then purple. Normally, this view gave him peace, but tonight, the words of Karen echoed in his ears. He thought about the neighbors. Most of them had been friendly, offering smiles and greetings. None of them had complained. Was it just Karen who felt this way? Or was she speaking for others too? Raj didn't know. Later, he opened his old notebook, the one where he often wrote his thoughts. He wrote down everything: how happy he was when he first moved, how proud he felt of his garden, and how confused he felt after meeting Karen. Writing gave him comfort, like sharing his worries with a quiet friend. Still, he reminded himself of one important truth: he had done nothing wrong. His home was his legally, his garden was within rules, and his heart was pure. He would not let fear or unfair judgment steal his joy. As the night grew darker, Raj closed his notebook and looked once more at the lake. The moonlight danced on the water, shining like silver threads. He whispered softly to himself, "This is my home. No one can take that away from me." He did not know what Karen planned to do next. He did not know that her actions would soon grow stronger, more troubling, and more unfair. But Raj had already planted the seed of courage in his heart. And just like the flowers in his garden, that courage was ready to grow. The days after Karen's second visit felt uneasy for Raj. He continued with his usual routine, watering his flowers in the morning, drinking tea on the porch, and walking by the lake in the evenings. From the outside, life looked peaceful. The birds still sang in the trees, the water still reflected the golden sun, and the air still smelled of fresh grass. But inside his heart, there was a quiet worry that did not leave him. Every time he heard footsteps or a door shut in the distance, Raj thought of Karen. He wondered when she would appear again, what she would say, and what new complaint she would bring. Raj was not a man who liked conflict. He believed in solving things calmly. Yet, the memory of her sharp voice, saying he didn't belong, stayed with him like a shadow. One afternoon, as Raj was fixing a small wooden bench in his yard, he noticed Karen approaching once more. Her walk was firm, her eyes serious, and her hands clutched a folder of papers. Raj sighed softly but stood up straight. He did not want to appear weak, even though his heart was heavy. "Good afternoon, Karen," he greeted politely. She didn't return the kindness. Instead, she held up the folder as if it was proof of something powerful. "I have checked the HOA documents," she announced. "And I am telling you now, you must leave this neighborhood. You are not following the rules." Raj's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Leave?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. "This is my home. I bought it with my hard-earned money. I signed the HOA agreement like everyone else. How can I not belong here?" Karen opened the folder and pointed to different sections. "Look at this. Your door color is not standard. Your garden chair is against the rules. And your flowers are planted too close to the walkway." Raj stepped closer and gently glanced at the pages. He immediately realized something: Karen had only picked small details, and she was twisting the words to suit her claims. For example, the HOA rule said door colors must be within certain shades. His door color was allowed, but Karen was pretending it wasn't. The rule said plants should not block the walkway, but his flowers were far from blocking anything. Keeping his voice respectful, Raj explained, "Karen, I read these rules carefully before I moved in. My door color is approved. My flowers are within the allowed space. And this chair is on my private porch, not on common property." Karen frowned, clearly displeased that he had an answer for everything. "You think you know better than me?" she asked sharply. "I have lived here for years. I know the standards. You are only new here. And new people must understand their place." Raj felt his heart tighten. "With respect," he said slowly, "this neighborhood belongs to all of us, not just a few. I have as much right to live here peacefully as anyone else." Karen's tone grew colder. "If you refuse to follow what I say, then you will regret it. I will make sure the HOA takes action against you. Do not test me." Her words hung in the air like heavy clouds. Raj stood quietly, keeping his calm even though inside he felt a storm. He wanted to shout, to tell her she was wrong, but he controlled himself. His parents had taught him long ago that anger never solves problems. Instead, he folded his hands together gently and replied, "Karen, I respect rules, but I will not leave my home. This house is mine, and I belong here." Karen glared at him for a moment, then turned sharply on her heel and walked away. Her footsteps were quick and loud, fading down the street. Raj remained standing in his yard, the wooden bench half fixed, the sunlight falling on his face. He felt both proud and worried. Proud because he had stood his ground without anger. Worried because Karen's last words were not just words, they were a warning. That evening, Raj sat by the lake with his fishing rod. The water rippled gently, and the sky turned orange and gold. Normally, this time brought peace, but today his thoughts were heavy. He wondered why Karen was so determined to push him out. What had he done to deserve such treatment? Neighbors passed by, greeting him with friendly nods. Some even stopped to chat. They spoke kindly, asked about his garden, and shared stories about the lake. None of them complained about his home. None of them seemed to have a problem with him. This gave Raj a little comfort. Perhaps Karen was acting alone. Perhaps it was only her who wanted him gone. But still, her words replayed in his mind, "You will regret it. I will make sure the HOA takes action against you." Raj closed his eyes and breathed deeply. He told himself again, "I have done nothing wrong. I will not be afraid." Yet, he also knew that a storm was on its way, and he would need strength to face it. The calm lake reflected the moon that night, but Raj's heart knew trouble was just beginning. The next few days passed quietly, though Raj carried a constant weight in his heart. He tried to focus on his daily life, watering his garden, sweeping the porch, and enjoying his walks by the lake, but Karen's warning echoed in his mind. "You will regret it. I will make sure the HOA takes action against you." At night, when the world was silent and the only sound came from the crickets near the water, Raj sometimes found himself lying awake, staring at the ceiling. He told himself again and again that he had done nothing wrong. He followed the rules. He paid his fees. He lived with kindness. Why, then, did Karen want him gone? One Saturday morning, Raj woke early and decided to spend the day caring for his garden. The sun was bright, and the air was filled with the smell of fresh flowers. He trimmed the bushes, watered the marigolds, and even tied a small wooden sign on the fence that said, "Welcome." It was his way of showing he wanted peace and friendliness with everyone around him. As he was cleaning his tools, Raj heard a sudden sound of car tires on the gravel road. When he looked up, his heart skipped a beat. Two police cars slowly stopped in front of his house. Red and blue lights blinked, though no sirens were on. Raj froze. For a moment, he wondered if there had been an accident nearby. But then he noticed something that made his chest tighten. Karen was standing on the sidewalk, her arms folded, her face serious and firm. She had called the cops. The officers stepped out of their cars, walking toward Raj. He quickly put down his tools, wiped his hands, and greeted them politely. "Good morning, officers. Can I help you?" His voice was calm, though his heart raced. One officer, tall and kind-faced, nodded. "Good morning, sir. We received a call about a possible trespassing situation. A report was made that someone is living here without permission." Raj's eyes widened slightly, though he already guessed who made the call. He glanced at Karen, who stood proudly as if waiting for victory. Then he looked back at the officers and spoke calmly, "This is my home. I purchased it legally, and I am part of this HOA. I can show you all the documents." The officers nodded. "That would be helpful, sir." Raj invited them politely onto the porch. He went inside and returned with a neat folder where he kept everything: his house deed, the HOA agreement, the receipts of his payments, and even a welcome letter from the HOA when he first moved in. He handed it to the officers with steady hands. The officers carefully looked through the documents. Their eyes scanned the pages, turning one after another. Raj stood quietly, waiting, though inside his chest his heart pounded like a drum. He reminded himself, "The truth is on my side. I have nothing to fear." After a few minutes, the kind-faced officer looked up and said, "Sir, everything here looks correct. You are the rightful owner of this property. Your HOA membership is valid, and you are allowed to live here." Relief washed over Raj's heart, but before he could speak, Karen stepped forward quickly. "No," she said firmly. "You don't understand. He doesn't belong here. His door color is wrong. His flowers are against the rules. He doesn't fit the standards of this neighborhood." The second officer, a woman with sharp but fair eyes, turned toward Karen. "Ma'am, the documents show that he owns this home. Rules about colors or flowers are HOA matters, not police matters. Calling the police for this is not appropriate unless there is real trespassing." Karen's face turned red. "But I am part of the HOA. I know what belongs here and what doesn't." The officer asked calmly, "Do you have proof that you have authority over this property or this homeowner?" For the first time, Karen hesitated. Her confident expression flickered. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She did not have any proof, because Raj's home was never under her control. Raj stood silently, watching. He didn't feel joy or anger, just sadness that things had come to this point. All he ever wanted was peace. Finally, the kind-faced officer handed Raj back his documents and said, "Sir, you are fine. You are not trespassing. You have every right to stay in your home." He turned toward Karen. "Ma'am, unless you can provide proper authority, you should not make false reports. Please understand this wastes time and creates unnecessary tension." Karen's eyes dropped to the ground. For a moment, she looked smaller, less powerful than before. She muttered something under her breath, then turned away, walking quickly down the street. The officers gave Raj a polite nod. "Sorry for the trouble, sir. Have a good day." Raj bowed his head slightly in gratitude. "Thank you, officers. I appreciate your time." When the cars drove away, the street became quiet again. The only sound was the gentle rustling of leaves and the soft waves of the lake. Raj stood on his porch, holding his folder close to his chest. His hands trembled slightly, but his heart felt lighter. He had faced the storm, and the truth had protected him. Yet he knew one thing clearly: this was not the end. Karen had not given up, and more challenges were surely on their way. Still, as Raj looked out at the calm lake, he whispered softly to himself, "I will not be afraid. This is my home, and no one can take it away from me." The morning after the police visit, Raj sat on his porch with his tea, staring at the calm water of the lake. The surface reflected the rising sun, painting the sky in gold and soft pink. Normally, this view filled him with peace, but today his mind was restless. The memory of flashing police lights outside his home was still fresh. He thought about the way Karen had stood so confidently, as if she truly believed he had no right to be there. Raj knew the truth was on his side, yet a question kept circling in his thoughts: why is Karen so determined to push me out? He didn't have to wait long for another clue. Later that day, as Raj was pruning the roses in his front yard, one of his neighbors, Mrs. Green, walked by. She was an elderly woman who often carried a basket of fresh bread from her kitchen. She stopped near Raj's fence and gave him a kind smile. "Good morning, Raj," she said warmly. "I heard about what happened yesterday." The whole street saw the police cars. Raj looked a little embarrassed but nodded politely. "Yes, ma'am. It was unexpected. I had to show my documents to prove I belong here." Mrs. Green shook her head sadly. "Karen has been like this with others too. You are not the first. She likes to act as if she owns the neighborhood. But truthfully, she doesn't have as much power as she claims." Raj's eyes lifted with interest. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Green lowered her voice slightly, as if sharing something private. "Karen does not even live in this lake section of the HOA. Her house is 2 streets away, in a different zone. She has no rights here, but she walks around as if she is in charge. Most people ignore her, but I see she has made you her new target." Raj stood still, the clippers in his hand frozen in mid-air. Her words opened a new path of thought in his mind. If Karen doesn't live in this lake section, then why does she keep interfering here? He thanked Mrs. Green kindly for sharing and wished her a good day. But now, a seed of truth had been planted in Raj's heart. Maybe Karen's authority was not real at all. Maybe she was trespassing in a place she had no right to control. That evening, Raj decided to do some checking of his own. He took out the thick HOA handbook from his shelf and carefully read through the sections. Each page listed clear rules about property lines, rights of homeowners, and responsibilities of the association. Nowhere did it say Karen's name. Nowhere did it give her any special authority. In fact, the HOA rules showed something interesting: each zone of the neighborhood had its own small board of representatives. Karen's name was not on the board of Raj's lake section. This gave Raj even more clarity: she was stepping into an area where she did not belong. The next day, Raj visited the small office of the HOA located near the community center. The office was simple, with a few chairs and a desk covered in papers. Behind the desk sat Mr. Lewis, a middle-aged man who worked as the HOA manager for the lake section. He looked up with a polite smile when Raj walked in. "Good afternoon, Raj. How can I help you?" Raj explained everything calmly: how Karen had come to his house, accused him of breaking rules, demanded that he move out, and even called the police. Mr. Lewis listened carefully, his eyebrows rising in surprise at each detail. When Raj finished, Mr. Lewis leaned back in his chair and sighed. "I see what has happened. Raj, You are right to be concerned, but let me make something clear. Karen does not have authority here. She lives in the upper street section, not in the lake section. She cannot enforce rules here, and she certainly cannot demand you move out. What she did is completely out of line. Relief mixed with frustration in Raj's chest. So she has no power over my property. None at all, Mr. Lewis confirmed. You are a legal homeowner here. Your documents are correct. You have followed the rules as far as I can see. Karen is simply overstepping. Raj thanked him sincerely and walked back home with lighter steps. The truth was finally becoming clear. Karen's power was only an illusion, built on her loud voice and confident attitude. She had no real authority. That evening, Raj sat by the lake with his fishing rod. The water rippled gently, and the moon rose above the trees. His heart still carried some worry. Karen was not the type to give up easily. But now he had something stronger than fear, he had knowledge. And knowledge gave him confidence. As he sat there quietly, another neighbor, Mr. Hill, walked by. He stopped and said, "Raj, I'm glad you stayed calm yesterday. Many of us support you. Don't let Karen's words trouble you too much." Raj smiled softly. "Thank you. I just want peace here." "You deserve it," Mr. Hill said firmly before continuing his walk. Raj looked out at the water once more. The lake reflected the silver light of the moon, calm and steady. He whispered to himself, "The truth is beginning to show. And soon, everyone will see it clearly." The days following Raj's visit to the HOA office were quieter, yet his mind could not completely rest. Karen had not appeared at his house for a few days, and the streets around the lake seemed peaceful. But Raj knew better than to think the problem was gone. Something in Karen's eyes and voice told him she would not stop easily. One morning, while Raj was trimming the bushes along his fence, a small group of neighbors approached. They walked slowly, exchanging quiet words, and when they noticed Raj, they smiled politely. Mrs. Green, the elderly woman who had spoken to him before, stepped forward. "Raj," she said, lowering her voice, "I think it's time you know the full truth about Karen." Raj stopped his work, curiosity and caution rising together. "What do you mean?" he asked. "She doesn't even live in this lake area," Mrs. Green continued. "Her house is in a completely different zone. Yet she keeps walking around here as if she is in charge. Some people ignore her, but now she seems focused on you." Raj nodded slowly. He had already discovered that from the HOA documents, but hearing it again from a neighbor made the situation feel real. "So, she's been coming here without permission?" he asked carefully. "Yes," Mrs. Green said. "She is trespassing. And now, with the police visit, she tried to make herself look like she had authority. But legally, she has no right to interfere in your home or your property." The realization hit Raj like a sudden wind. He had been worried for days about Karen's threats, about her power, about the possibility of having to leave his own home. And now he understood, all along, Karen had been the one out of place. She had been stepping into someone else's world without permission, creating tension where none should exist. Raj's mind raced. If Karen had no authority, then the warnings, the threats, and the police call were all her attempts to control what didn't belong to her. He felt a mixture of relief, anger, and pity. Relief because he was finally safe, anger because someone had dared to disturb his peaceful life, and pity because Karen's actions seemed driven by fear of her own limitations. Determined to protect his home and ensure the situation was fully resolved, Raj decided to take careful steps. He spoke with Mr. Lewis at the HOA office again. This time, he requested a formal notice clarifying the boundaries of authority and confirming that Karen had no right to enter his lake section. The office agreed immediately, impressed with Raj's calm and logical approach. By the end of the day, Raj had the document in hand. It stated clearly that he was the legal homeowner of his property and that Karen had no authority or rights in his area. It also reminded HOA members that trespassing and interference in other zones were not allowed. This formal confirmation was a shield he could rely on if Karen ever returned with another plan. That evening, as Raj returned home, he noticed Karen's figure at the far end of the street. She was walking slowly, glancing at the houses along the lake. Her posture was less confident than before. Her arms were no longer folded tightly, her steps were hesitant. Raj realized she had seen the notice or at least felt the boundaries were being enforced. He did not approach her. Instead, he went inside, sat on the porch, and watched the lake. The sky was painted with colors of sunset, soft golds and oranges reflecting on the water's surface. The gentle ripples reminded him that life, like water, always moves forward. Challenges come, but peace always returns if one acts with courage and truth. Raj's heart felt lighter. He had faced fear, handled threats, and now understood the real situation. Karen, despite her loud voice and threats, was powerless. The truth had revealed itself clearly, the real trespasser was not him, but her. That night, Raj placed a small lantern on his porch, letting its soft glow shine across the garden. He looked at the lake, listening to the quiet lapping of water against the shore. For the first time in weeks, he felt completely at peace. The tension that had shadowed his days was gone, replaced by a strong sense of protection and belonging. And while he knew Karen might return, trying again in her own ways, Raj also knew something stronger had grown within him: confidence, calmness, and the courage to face any challenge. He understood that threats could not move him, lies could not change reality, and peace could not be stolen from someone who stood firm in the truth. He whispered softly to himself, a quiet promise to the wind and water around him: "This is my home. My life, my peace, my dream. No one can take it away." As the moon rose above the lake, Raj felt the final weight of fear lift from his chest. The long days of worry and tension had brought him clarity. And from this moment onward, he knew he would face any obstacle with calmness, truth, and courage. The morning after the HOA confirmed the truth, Raj woke up with a sense of calm he hadn't felt in weeks. The lake outside his window was serene, reflecting the soft morning light, and the gentle chirping of birds seemed to celebrate his victory. For the first time since Karen's visits began, Raj felt he could truly breathe. He stepped onto the porch, holding a cup of tea, and looked around his garden. The marigolds swayed gently in the breeze, the roses opened to the sun, and the small wooden chair he had placed earlier seemed to invite him to sit and enjoy the moment. It was a simple scene, but to Raj, it symbolized resilience, patience, and peace. Raj's neighbors were starting to notice the change as well. Mrs. Green walked by carrying her basket of bread, stopping to smile at him. "Good morning, Raj," she said warmly. "It seems everything is finally calm." "Yes, ma'am," Raj replied with a soft smile. "The HOA confirmed the truth. Karen has no authority here, and my home is safe." Mrs. Green nodded, a twinkle of relief in her eyes. "I'm glad. People like you deserve peace, Raj. You handled everything with patience and wisdom. Many would have lost hope, but you stayed calm." Raj felt a quiet pride. He had faced threats, unfair accusations, and the stress of potential conflict. Yet, through it all, he had remained calm, logical, and kind. He realized that his strength did not come from force or anger but from understanding and patience. Later that day, Raj took a walk along the edge of the lake. The water was clear and still, reflecting the trees and sky above. Small ripples formed when a fish jumped or a breeze passed by, reminding him that life always moves, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. He thought about the past weeks, the tension, the police visit, and Karen's threats. It felt like a heavy storm had passed, leaving the air fresh and clear. As he walked, some neighbors waved and greeted him. Many had quietly observed the situation with Karen and supported Raj from afar. One neighbor, Mr. Hill, stopped to talk. "Raj, I hope you know that we all admire how you handled this," he said kindly. "It takes courage to face threats and stay calm. You've reminded us all what fairness and patience mean." Raj smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun. "Thank you, Mr. Hill. I only did what I believed was right. I wanted peace for my home and my neighbors, not trouble." By the evening, the lake glowed with the colors of sunset, gold, orange, and soft purple mixing on the water's surface. Raj placed a small lantern on his porch, letting its soft light illuminate the garden. He sat in his chair and picked up his fishing rod, enjoying the quiet time. As he watched the water ripple gently, he thought about Karen. Despite her harsh words and threats, he felt no anger now, only clarity. She had tried to create fear, to disrupt his life, but in the end, truth and patience had won. Raj realized that people who act with anger or power often feel insecure inside. He didn't need to be angry at her. Understanding her motives was enough to release the tension she had caused. The next morning, Raj's garden was alive with flowers, the lake reflected the sun perfectly, and the neighborhood was calm. Children ran along the paths, neighbors greeted one another, and the soft sounds of life filled the air. Raj's home had become a symbol of quiet strength and patience. He invited Mrs. Green and Mr. Hill to his porch for tea. They sat together, talking and laughing softly, sharing stories of the neighborhood. For Raj, these small moments of connection and friendship felt more valuable than any victory. Peace, he realized, was not just the absence of conflict, it was the presence of kindness, understanding, and community. Weeks passed, and Karen no longer appeared at the lake section. The street returned to its natural calm, and Raj's life slowly regained its rhythm. Every morning, he could walk by the lake without worry, tend to his garden, and enjoy the simple beauty around him. Each sunset reminded him of the challenges he had faced and the courage he had discovered within himself. One evening, as the stars appeared above the lake and the water shimmered under their light, Raj whispered softly to himself, "This is my home. My peace is mine. No one can take it away." In that moment, he truly understood that home was not just a place of walls and a roof, it was a place of heart, of calm, and of strength. Through patience, respect, and courage, he had defended it without losing his own kindness. And so, Raj's days continued with the gentle rhythm of the lake, the warmth of neighbors' friendship, and the knowledge that no storm, no loud voice, and no false claim could ever shake the truth. Peace was restored, fully and completely, in his little home by the lake. He smiled, sipped his tea, and let the quiet night surround him, knowing that this serenity, earned through patience and wisdom, would remain for a long time.